Today we're going to read the 8 winds. The Go Show's in volume 1. It starts on page 970 or 794, and the background's on page 796. Before I get into that, I want to mention from the dictionary a particular person that's going to be mentioned here, and I'm going to tell a little story when we get to his name, but you'll be able to tell what I'm talking about right here. His name is Hakiri Senenaga, okay, also known as Hakii Senenaga. Hikiri Rokuro Senenaga, or Nambu Rokuro Senenaga, the steward of the southern part of Kai province that included the Minobu area and its 3 villages, Hakiri, Mimaki, and Iino. He was converted by Nikko, N-I-K-K-O, Nikko, to Nichiren's teachings around 1269. When Nichiren resolved to leave Kamakura, Hakiri eagerly welcomed him to Minobu and constructed a small dwelling for him. In 1281, he built a temple and donated it to Nichiren, who named it Kuanji. Actually, he named it Minobu-san Kuanji. After Nichiren's death, he serves Nichiren's successor, Nikko, Nikko, all right? Influenced by Nikko, N-I-K-O, then the chief instructor of priests, however, he later strayed from Nikko's N-I-K-K-O's instruction, which obviously, that's Nikko Shonen from our Gongyo. He's okay, he's number 2, right? After he's Nichiren from the time he was a 16-year-old acolyte, okay? He strayed from Nikko's instruction. Nikko, N-I-K-O, seems to have lost Nichiren's spirit to strictly distinguish between the true and provisional teachings, and later disassociated himself from Nichiren's teachings. And Nikko, N-I-K-K-O, by, among other things, identifying himself as a priest of the Tendai school. As a result of his relationship with Nikko, Hakiri deviated from Nichiren's teachings by committing 4 acts Nichiren had forbidden as inappropriate for practitioners of the correct teaching. He commissioned a statue of Shakyamuni Buddha, made pilgrimages to Shinto shrines, made donations for the construction of a stone tower of the Pure Land teaching in Fukushi village, and had a Pure Land seminary built. These actions prompted Nikko, N-I-K-K-O, who felt responsible for protecting the purity of Nichiren's teachings, to leave Minobu in 1289, and that's how Taisekuji ultimately occurred, okay? So understand, right now I know from doing what I do, there are a couple of, I call them cartoons, but they're really animations. Nichiren Shoshu and Nichiren Shu, 2 schools that I believe have deviated from the correct teaching, are doing like these little videos of animation about Nichiren Daishonin because they don't have enough members, so I guess they're reaching out to try and bolster that. But again, I would try to convey to all of you that the message that's contained within this writing, and that President Ikeda, he doesn't ever really talk about what I just said to you, okay? But this deviation that I just spoke of is what kind of invalidates Nichiren Shu from Nichiren Shoshu. Is that me?
No.
Okay. So again, why do we have issues? I mean, all the people that Nichiren Shu members all chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Okay? It's following the correct teaching of the teacher. It's not just chanting Daimoku. It's mentor-disciple reality, requirement, okay? That's part of the Buddhism of sowing. And so that's the reason that we have had the issue that we've had with Nichiren Shoshu, because even though Nichiren Shoshu understands the correct lineage from Nikko, N-I-K-K-O, who excommunicated us? Nikken. When Nikken cut everybody loose for no reason, Okay? He deviated from the teaching and created distinctions that should not have been there. All right? So understand that part about what is about to be read to you here. Let me go to the background on page 976. Background. This is one of many letters Nichiren Daishonin wrote to Shijo Kingo, his loyal disciple in Kamakura. Because of Kingo's devotion to the Daishonin's teachings, he was ordered in 1276 to move from his estate near Kamakura to the distant province of Echigo. The letter is not dated, but it is known to have been written in the third year of Kenji, 1277. The concept of the 8 winds is described in works such as the Treatise on the Stage of Buddhahood Sutra. They advise people not to be swayed by their attachment to prosperity, honor, praise, or pleasure, the 4 favorable winds, or by aversion to decline, disgrace, censure, or suffering, the 4 adverse winds. And I'm smiling because I've met all those winds. I'm good friends with all those winds. The Daishonin cautions Shijo to remain in the good graces of his Lord, reminding him that Lord Emma refrained from harassing him during the Daishonin's exile on Sado, when the government was persecuting the Daishonin and his followers. Then the Daishonin tells Kingo that only by putting faith first and controlling his feelings of resentment against his Lord can he expect to find a way out of his impasse. He also says that courts of law and other expedients are secondary to faith, and that if Kingo is to win, he must proceed exactly as the Daishonin teaches. I can't wait for you guys to hear all this. All right, so here we go. The 8 winds on page 794. Everybody's with me, right? Mm-hmm. All right. I had been anxious about you because I had not heard from you in so long. I was overjoyed to receive your messenger who arrived with your various offerings. I am going to bestow the Gohonzon on you for your protection. About the problem of your transfer to another estate, I have studied your Lord's letter to you and your letter to me and compared them. I anticipated this problem even before your letter arrived. Since your Lord regards this as a matter of utmost importance, I surmise that other retainers have spoken ill of you to him, saying, he shows a lack of respect for you in his unwillingness to move to a new estate. There are many selfish people, but he is more selfish than most. We would advise you to show him no further kindness for the time being. You must beware and act cautiously. The Daishonin then says to Shijo Kingo, you must beware and act cautiously. As vassals, you, your parents, and your close relatives are deeply indebted to your Lord. Moreover, he showed you great clemency by taking no action against your clan when I incurred the wrath of the government and the entire nation hated me. Many of my disciples had their land seized by the government and were then disowned or driven from their lord's estates. Even if he never shows you the slightest further consideration, you should not hold a grudge against your Lord. It is too much to expect another favor from him just because you were reluctant to move to a new estate. Worthy persons deserve to be called so because they are not carried away by the 8 winds: prosperity, decline, disgrace, honor, praise, censure, suffering, and pleasure. They are neither elated by prosperity nor grieved by decline. The heavenly gods will surely protect one who is unbending before the 8 winds. But if you nurse an unreasonable grudge against your Lord, they will not protect you, not for all your prayers. Let me say it again. But if you nurse an unreasonable grudge against your Lord, if you don't show the appreciation that you have, if you perceive everything correctly, karmically, you perceive and understand him as being somebody that's been protecting you, even though he seems to be, giving you, a hard time right now. Don't forget what's preceded this moment and forget that debt of gratitude. You'll be creating karma for yourself. If you want to win, have correct thinking, have the correct mind. But if you nurse an unreasonable grudge against your Lord, they will not protect you, not for all your prayers. When one goes to court, one may win one's case, but then again, one may lose, when satisfaction could have been obtained outside the court. I considered how the night watchmen might win their case. I felt great pity for them. They were deeply troubled, and their houses and lands had been confiscated just because they were Nichiren's followers. I said that I would pray for them, provided that they did not go to court. They agreed and promised not to go. So when I heard they had submitted petitions and were embroiled in lawsuits, I was concerned that it would not go their way. So far, no results have been forthcoming. Daigaku and Uman no Tavu had their prayers answered because they followed my advice. Hakiri, who I was just talking about, seems to believe my teachings, but he ignored my suggestions about his lawsuit, and so I have been concerned about his progress. And his progress was that after the Daishonins passed away, he completely went off the reservation and did all this other weird other school stuff. Some good seems to have come of it, perhaps because I warned him that he would lose unless he followed my advice. But because he did not listen to the extent I had hoped, the outcome has been less fruitful than he expected. If lay believers and their teacher pray with differing minds, their prayers will be as futile as trying to kindle a fire on water. Even if they pray with one mind, their prayers will go unanswered if they have long made the error of attacking greater teachings with lesser ones, which would be exactly what Hikiri did by supporting the true word and whatever I was talking about there. He went off the reservation, enough to the fact that Nika couldn't handle it and had to leave. Eventually, both lay believers and their teacher will be ruined. Myoen, who was the 15th chief priest of the Tendai school, Myoen was the 15th chief priest of the Tendai school. He was punished by the retired emperor in the 5th month of the 2nd year of Angen, 1176, and ordered into exile in the province of Izu. En route, however, he was rescued by Otsu and his priests from Mount Hei. He resumed his position as chief priest, but in the 11th month of the 2nd year of Jue, 1183, he was captured by Minamoto no Yoshinaka and beheaded. I am not saying that being exiled or beheaded is in itself an indication of faith. Even sages and worthies undergo such things. Even sages and worthies undergo such things. When civil war broke out between Yorimoto of the Minamoto clan and Kiyomori of the Taira clan, more than 20 of Kiyomori's clansmen signed a pledge and affixed their seals. They vowed, "We will look to Mount Hei as our clan temple. We will revere the 3,000 monks as our own parents. The sorrows of the mountain temple will be our sorrows, and the joy of the mountain temple our joys." Now again, Mount Hei is Dengyo's temple that got turned over by his following high priest into a true word place, right? So again, deviated, lower teaching, mistaken as equal or comparable to a higher teaching. The sorrows of the mountain temple will be our sorrows, and the joys of the mountain temple our joys. They donated all the 24 districts of Ami province to the temple. Then the chief priest Myoen and his disciples employed all the rites of the true word teachings in their prayers to vanquish the enemy, and even ordered their armed priests to shoot arrows at the Minamoto soldiers. Yoshinaka of the Minamoto clan and one of his retainers, Higuchi, however, accompanied by a mere 5 or 6 men, climbed Mount Hei and burst into the main hall. They dragged Myoen from the platform where he was praying for victory, bound him with a rope, rolled him down the west slope of the mountain like a big stone, and beheaded him. Nevertheless, the people of Japan do not shun the true word teachings, nor have they ever delved into this matter. In other words, why aren't those prayers ever answered? Because they're no longer a correct teaching. It's the latter day of the law. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is the correct teaching. During the 5th, 6th, and 7th months of the 3rd year of the Jokyu, 1221, that's the Jokyu disturbance, the cyclical sign Kanoto Mi. The imperial court and the barbarian warriors engaged in combat. At the time, Maohei, Toji, and the 7 major temples of Nara, Onoji, and the other temples, so all of the major temples, each performed all the most esoteric rites of the true word school in their prayers to the sun goddess, great Bodhisattva Hachiman, the mountain king, and other deities. 41 of the most renowned priests, including the general administrator of priests Jien, a former chief priest of the Tendai school, and the administrators of priests of Toji, of Omoro, and of the Jojuin Hall in Onoji Temple, prayed repeatedly for Hojo, Yoshitoki's defeat. So everybody's doing true word to try and defeat these enemies of the imperial, of the emperor, right? The prelate of Omoro also began a ceremony to overpower the enemies of the Shishinden Palace on the 8th day of the 6th month. He proclaimed that the imperial court would be victorious within 7 days. But on the 7th day, the 14th day of the 6th month, the battle ended in defeat, and the prelate died of extreme grief because his beloved page Setaka had been beheaded. Yet despite all this, no one ever wondered what was wrong with the true word doctrines. The ceremonies that incorporated all the true word doctrines, the first conducted by Myoin and the second by Jien, resulted in the complete collapse of the royal rule in Japan. Now, for the 3rd time, a special religious ceremony is being held to ward off the Mongol invasion. The present regime will surely suffer the same fate. This is a confidential matter. You should keep it strictly to yourself. As for your own problem, I advise you not to go to court. Neither harbor a grudge against your lord, nor leave his service. Stay on in Kamakura. Go to attend on your lord less frequently than before. Wait upon him only from time to time. Then you can expect that your wish will be fulfilled. Never conduct yourself in a shameful manner. Be unmoved by greed, by the desire for fame, or by anger. Okay? And so that was the Gosho. And let me inject something here. Before we get started, we haven't seen each other for 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. And 3 weeks ago, it hadn't been posted yet because it takes so long to get it through YouTube. But I had read The Opening of the Eyes. It took me 6 hours. It affected me for days physically afterward to expend myself like that. I didn't do that to be cool, to be great, or anything else, but I do realize I may not be here forever. Okay? And there are certain things that if I don't share, I won't have fulfilled my mission. Okay? So I have to do these things even if I don't physically feel well to do them, because I've taken a vow and I can't let the devil of death screw with me, because I've got to teach all of you in that process how to deal with the devil of death yourself. All of us do. Okay? So when I posted those 6 hours worth of videos, we've got almost 1,000 subscribers. I'm not going to even ask any of you by embarrassing you to say, did you watch all 6 videos? Because I wouldn't be shocked if nobody did. We've all read it. It's not the first time. But again, how many of you have read The Opening of the Eyes 5 times? I'm the only, I've read it maybe 10 times. Why would I read it over and over and over again if it was just no big deal? I put it out there because it's a very big deal. It's a very, very big deal. And as of the last time I looked, only 68 people out of all the people that, we can do a one on a Go show. There's 200 views almost, like in a week. This has been 3 weeks and not even 100 people have listened to a reading of The Opening of the Eyes, which is very difficult to read. The first thing about reading The Opening of the Eyes is you space out. You're rereading paragraphs, you just get discouraged trying to figure out what it's saying. Okay? So I highly encourage all of you to understand, you can't just jump around because this isn't for entertainment. Okay? I can see a lot more people watch the first video and the last video, then they watched the 3 in between, or the 4 in between, okay? Karen Hill, good for you. Thanks for sticking with me. That's the one person I know watched all 6, okay? So I don't say this because I feel disrespected, or I even, everybody makes their own karma. But what I'm letting you know is when somebody is trying to bestow upon you an ability to advance and you don't utilize it the way it was intended, you twist, you contort the benefit. The President Kate is going to talk about that here. I mean, again, I really read that because we've already read this. It's already on all the videos. This is the lecture by Daisaku Ikeda. Okay? You have to go back to what, 2017? It's 17 something 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 is when it all starts. It took us months to get through this. I would hope that those of the people that had read the opening or read the first segment of the opening of the eyes will go back and read not, what they didn't read, but start again and read the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th. I know what I know about Buddhism because of how much I've read from Nichiren, what is important to know and what isn't important to know. Okay? And if you don't follow the rhythm, follow the message, you can't understand. It's very clear if you read and understand that Gosho, he declares his true identity as the original Buddha. Okay? But that's what separates Nichiren Shoshu and the Soka Gakkai from Nichiren Shu, is the misunderstanding, not perceiving that reality. So they can chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, and I'm sure they must get some sort of benefit. But do they attain enlightenment in their present form? I do not believe they can. Their priesthood doesn't preach that they can. Okay? So I'm saying this for your own good, everybody. Understand what you're doing when you take shortcuts. You're cutting yourself short. Okay? It's up to you. It's your call. I feel blessed that I had such teachers that I never have that problem. And I feel blessed that I've been so hit by so much adversity that I can totally relate to this lecture on the 8 winds, because I have been afflicted by all 8. So, we already just read the full Gosho. I don't have to read the gray box. Starting on page 18, let me take another sip of coffee, even though you gave me good advice. I may not be as sharp as I might have wanted to be. All right, here we go. Lecture. One autumn more than 3 decades ago. Give me something to slide. I'm done with this now. One autumn more than 3 decades ago in November 1981, I was at the Soka Gakkai Shikoku Training Center in Aji, Kagawa Prefecture, Shikoku. During an informal discussion there one night with some youth, they showed me a draft of some lyrics they had written to a new Soka Gakkai song and asked me to go over it with them. It was obvious they had worked through the night to write it. Their eyes were red from a lack of sleep. So long as such youth were present, young people who possessed a profound determination to take initiative everywhere, I was confident that the Soka Gakkai would be secure and our future bright. Pardon me. I readily agreed to help them polish the song. Over the next few days of my stay in Shikoku, we met more than 20 times to work on it. It was an earnest struggle waged in the brief intervals between events in my tightly packed schedule. Our efforts resulted in Song of Crimson, which is still sung today as a favorite among our members. The second verse originally contained the phrase, "Some seek praise and fear criticism," but this could be read simply as a statement of fact. So I suggested we revise it to "Scorning those who seek fame and fear criticism," which is the big key. You can't fear criticism. I'm sure that what I just said might tick off some people, thinking that I'm getting, in their face. I'm not getting in your face. I'm letting you know what I know. Okay? My wish was to infuse the lyrics with the spirit of Soka, to forge triumphantly ahead through the turbulent seas of society without concern for the vagaries of public opinion. Don't ever give a shit about public opinion. My mentor, second Soka Gakkai president, Josei Toda, often said to the youth, "Do not be afraid, live your lives boldly as true lions." True to these words, the Soka Gakkai and its members have persevered on the path of faith since the early days of our movement. We have never lost our direction amid even the fiercest storms. We never swerved and always kept on the course of our life's mission. Each one of us have that life's mission. If we've taken the vow, we've taken the vow. We've all taken the same vow. That's why I was so happy to see the youth in Shikoku at that time embody the Soka Gakkai spirit, and I still feel that way about our youth today. A magnificent, ever-growing network of youthful bodhisattvas of the earth is being built around the world. Having emerged in this new era, these youth have a great mission, and you all do. That's why you need to understand correctly what the deal is. I therefore hope that you will advance victoriously in your own impressive human revolution, unconcerned with status or fame, and not being swayed by worldly praise or criticism as you strive to achieve the lofty dream of worldwide Kosen Rufu. Buddhism exists so that we may Buddhism exists so that we may lead lives of noble purpose and fulfillment. We practice Buddhism to build lives of happiness and victory. In this chapter, we will study the 8 winds in which Nichiren Daishonin outlines the way of a wise person, not carried away by worldly praise or blame. Okay? And if you're a worthy or a sage, you must be a wise person, right? So let's hear how he says we can be the most wise that we possibly can. We continue on page 19, second column. Encouraging Shijo Kingo at a time of adversity, from the Gosho. As vassals, you, Shijo Kingo, your parents and your close relatives are deeply indebted to your lord. Moreover, he showed you great clemency by taking no action against your clan when I incurred the wrath of the government and the entire nation hated me. Many of my disciples had their land seized by the government and were then disowned or driven from their lord's estates. Even if he never shows you the slightest further consideration, you should not hold a grudge against your lord. It is too much to expect another favor from him just because you are reluctant to move to a new estate. From President Keita's lecture, bottom of page 19, second column. Among Nichiren's lay followers, Shijo Kingo demonstrated an especially sincere seeking spirit toward the Daishonin's teachings and courageously devoted himself to propagating them. Around 1274, a few months after Nichiren's pardon from exile on Sado Island, Kingo introduced the Daishonin's teachings to his feudal lord, the head of the Emma family, who both he and his father served. Lord Emma was an eminent member of the ruling Hojo clan, but he was also a member of the Nagoe family, which had been punished in the aftermath of the February disturbance of 1272. In 1274, tension mounted throughout Japan as the threat of a Mongol invasion intensified. Against this backdrop, Shijo Kingo wanted to secure his lord's safety by awakening him to the correct teaching of Buddhism. But his attempts to share the mystic law with Emma, a devoted follower of the true word precepts priest Ryokan, who is the Daishonin's archenemy, gradually alienated him from his lord. In addition, his fellow samurai retainers, who already resented Kingo because of the great trust Emma placed in him, exploited this rift and plotted to discredit him. As a result, Kingo's situation worsened. In 1276, Emma gave notice that Kingo would be assigned an estate in distant Echigo province. Hearing this, the Daishonin instructed Kingo not to be concerned about any change of estate, but to stay nearby and continue serving his lord faithfully. And what had Shijo Kingo done that got him in such trouble with Lord Emma? What was it that he had done? Shakabuku. And that showed you, he didn't, he took him on because he was devoted to true word, okay? Which meant he had to then bring forth Nichiren's teachings and interpretation of the Lotus Sutra to qualify Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to him in opposition to the true word teachings, which had never worked for a long time. If any of you read enough of the Goshas, I don't know where it is, but the Daishonin talks about this. Why did he start out on his quest as a kid to read all of the sutras, to read all of the sutras and to understand the teachings of all of the schools? What motivated him?
He could answer any kind of question.
No, that wasn't that was part of it. That was part of it, obviously. But in reality, he wanted to understand why, because he didn't already have a presupposed opinion. He wanted to understand why the prayers of all of these temples, I just told you, every single one of them, no different than in World War II, the Shinto talisman being put in all the altars, regardless of this kind of Buddhism, okay? He wanted to understand how could it be that the teachings of Buddhism could not have the power to protect the people invoking and asking for their protection. That's how he discovered, it's because you guys have been slandering your asses off. This is what Tentai said. This is what Dengyo clarified. This is what we should be doing, okay? So, where am I? Over here. I know, okay, I'm going to go to the bottom of page 20. Shijo Kingo, that is it. Yeah. Shijo Kingo did exactly as the Daishonin instructed, okay? But the resentful retainers twisted his sincere intent to protect his lord at the risk of his life, regardless of what happened to his estate. They maligned him to Emma, saying that his refusal to move blatantly defied the Lord's orders. Seeking to prove his innocence and show the purity of his motives, Kingo thought about taking the matter to court. This letter, The 8 Winds, is the Daishonin's response upon learning about that he's going to take him to court, okay? Just as Hakiri had ultimately done when he told him, don't take him to court. Offering warm words of support, the Daishonin begins this letter. I need my water here, pardon me. Pardon me. Offering warm words of support, the Daishonin begins the letter by saying that he has studied and compared Kingo's letter and the letter Kingo received from Emma, adding that he had anticipated this problem. Page 20, second column. He then gives Kingo detailed advice and encouragement while clarifying the essence of the issue. The crux, he points out, is that envious fellow retainers are trying to pressure Kingo behind the scenes by defaming him to Emma. Nichiren surmises that they've said such things as, he shows you a lack of respect for you in his unwillingness to move to a new estate, and we would advise you to show him no further kindness. Discrediting the just through malicious lies and rumors has been an unchanging pattern of persecution throughout human history. President Makaguchi experienced it and died in prison. President Toda experienced it and didn't make it to 60. Okay? President Ikeda has absolutely experienced it post-1990. Okay? So this is part of the deal. Don't be afraid to be opposed by evil. If you're a true bodhisattva of the earth, that's what shows you you're on the right path. And so you can never be afraid to open your mouth, or you're not doing what you're supposed to do as a bodhisattva of the earth. You're succumbing to the power of devilish functions rather than defeating them. I can tell you, I defeated these 8 winds. Okay? So how did I do it? Only because I had faith in the teaching, and I never gave up, and I never stopped chanting, and I never got discouraged or thought chanting doesn't work. Okay? Discrediting the just through malicious lies and rumors has been an unchanging pattern of persecution throughout human history. If those in the right allow themselves to let such attacks disturb them and prompt them to rash action, they can fall into their opponent's trap and become a cause of their own undoing. As the Daishonin states, because you got to have faith that the Gohonzan's power is what's going to allow you to prove the proof of actual fact through your own life. As the Daishonin states, though worldly troubles may arise, never let them disturb you. No one can avoid problems, not even sages or worthies. He's saying, not even me. We must learn to calmly see the essence of things. In this letter, the Daishonin warns Shijo Kingo, you must be aware and act cautiously. Top of page 21, first column. Buddhism places emphasis on human behavior. We all know that, right? Mm-hmm. What was the purpose of Shakyamuni's advent in this world?
Be an example.
His behavior as a human being. The Daishonin reminds Kingo that he should be grateful to Emma for the kindness he had shown him, his parents, and his entire family. When the military government persecuted Nichiren and exiled him to Sado, they also persecuted many of his followers. But Lord Emma did nothing to punish Kingo. For that alone, the Daishonin says, Kingo owes his Lord an immense debt. And if he should never receive any future consideration, he should not resent him. In this way, the Daishonin sternly yet compassionately advises Shijo Kingo that it would be a mistake for him to give his lord the impression that he is reluctant to accept the new estate and wishes special consideration. In many other letters, the Daishonin had repeatedly instructed Shijo Kingo as to the correct attitude to have as a Buddhist serving his lord. Once Kingo said he wanted to retire from the life of a warrior to become a lay priest because Lord Emma's neglect had driven Kingo into a predicament. On that occasion, Nichiren opposed the idea. He said, don't become a priest, stay a warrior, stay a samurai, continue to serve your lord. On that occasion, Nichiren opposed the idea and stressed the gratitude he owed his lord. He writes, you yourself must not abandon him no matter how your life may be endangered. So you can't even begrudge your life. That's the debt of gratitude that you owe this guy. And as mentioned earlier, when the possibility first arose that Shijo Kingo would be transferred, the Daishonin instructed him to say to Emma, at this moment I am resolved to sacrifice my life for my lord if anything grave happens. Top of page 21, second column. Buddhism teaches the ultimate principle that our behavior as human beings is what counts above all. Whereas many other followers had been, why does our behavior as human beings count more than anything else? Because Buddhahood is only expressed in reality through behavior. Mm-hmm. It is not expressed through great words of wisdom or pontification. Okay? That's the point. If you're the Buddha, you're always trying to make people equal to yourself. Okay? You don't consider them less than you. You obviously don't, because your conviction is that they can become your equal. They too can become Buddhas, regardless of their capacity, regardless of their sex, regardless of their political identity. Okay? Whereas many other followers had been persecuted for their faith. Again, second paragraph, page 21, second column. Whereas many other followers had been persecuted for their faith during his exile on Sado, Emma had protected Shijo Kingo. From that broader perspective, Emma was a protector of Kosen Rufu. Why? What was the significance of Shijo Kingo? He was at Tatsunokuchi. He took the trip to Sado Island. Okay? Mm-hmm. He constantly tithed, donated all kinds of offerings of support for the Daishonin's actual physical life. Okay? And he did shakabuku. He was a devoted follower. He wasn't afraid to shakabuku, his true word Lord. Emma had protected Shijo Kingo. From that broader perspective, Emma was a protector of Kosen Rufu because Shijo Kingo protected the Daishonin. All right? Such being the case, Nichiren Daishonin sought to teach Kingo that in terms of both Buddhism and reason, faithfully serving his Lord and benefactor, faithfully serving his Lord and benefactor, Emma, was the right thing to do, the correct way to behave as a human being. A life impervious to the 8 winds. And that's why when Nikken Shonin showed no respect or appreciation for the efforts of Soka Gakkai, he had 8 winds it. All right? A life impervious to the 8 winds. Worthy persons deserve to be called so because they are not carried away by the 8 winds. Prosperity, decline, disgrace, honor, praise, censure, suffering, and pleasure. They are neither elated by prosperity or grieved by decline. The heavenly gods will surely protect one who is unbending before the 8 winds. If you nurse an unreasonable grudge against your Lord, they will not protect you. Not for all your prayers. Nichiren wished that Shijo Kingo would win in his circumstances and in the place where he had an important mission. Toward that end, the Daishonin stresses that a wise person is one who is not carried away by the 8 winds. The 8 winds are conditions that obstruct the practice of Buddhism, consisting of the 4 favorable winds of prosperity, honor, praise, and pleasure, my favorites, and the 4 adverse winds of decline, disgrace, censure, and suffering. Not as much fun. These are defined as follows. Prosperity, prospering through gain or advantage. It can mean, prospering because you're somebody's special kid, okay? Honor, being honored or acclaimed by the public. Praise, being praised by those around one. Pleasure, experiencing enjoyment physically or mentally. Decline, suffering various kinds of loss or disadvantage. Joe Rollison, you're listening to all this, right? Disgrace, being scorned by the public. Censure, being slandered by those around one. Okay? Suffering, experiencing suffering physically or mentally. Generally, first column, page 22. Generally, people welcome the 4 favorable winds and seek to avoid the 4 adverse winds because you don't realize that the 4 favorable winds can destroy you. They're just as formidable and problematic as the 4 adverse winds. Absolutely. But even the 4 favorable winds represent only temporary, relative forms of happiness. There's no such thing as a life of eternal smooth sailing. There are calm days and days with ups and downs. That's the reality. We human beings allow thoughts of short-term gain or loss or public opinion rule our behavior. We become obsessed with what others think of us, focus only on superficial appearances, and overlook what's really important: to fulfill our vows as bodhisattvas of the earth, to never stop practicing to the last moment of our lives, to be living examples of the teachings of Nichiren. If this happens, we won't stand a chance when confronting intense winds of hardship or times of momentous change. It is crucial that we forge a solid self that is impervious to all the 8 winds. The Daishonin asserts that the heavenly deities, the benevolent forces of the universe, will protect those who are neither elated by prosperity nor grieved by decline. And again, heavenly deities aren't like spooky heavenly people. Okay, they're not spirits. We're talking about when I talk about good versus evil existing in all things, those aspects are what he's talking about, the good aspects of all things. The benevolent forces of the universe will protect those who are neither elated by prosperity nor grieved by decline, but remain unbending before the 8 winds. Founding Soka Gakkai President Tanesaburo Makaguchi underlined this entire passage in his copy of Nichiren Daishonen's writings. Live as a noble person of wisdom. Mr. Makaguchi also said, second paragraph, page 22, Nichiren Daishonen states, to be praised by fools, that is the greatest shame. Isn't it? It is, because it's worthless. And it'll lead you to believe you're correct when you're incorrect, because fools don't know what's correct. All right? As Buddhists, we must weigh the essence and value the things in terms of the strict causality taught in Buddhism. Let me say that one again. It's important. As Buddhists, we must weigh the essence and value of things in terms of strict causality, taught in Buddhism. Okay, that requires wisdom. You got to see the connection of what made this moment, what made the moment before that, what made the moment before that. Where is this headed then based on those moments? If there was something terrible, but ultimately that's what created an opportunity, only then can you appreciate, that was my Zinshi Shiki, that was my good friend. I wouldn't be here now had I not faced and defeated that. If we are swayed by worldly praise or censure, we cannot become people of great good. We won't become people of wisdom. We might not be smart, we might know a lot of stuff, but we won't know the correct thing at each and every moment that is important for us to be able to utilize it ourselves or give advice and direction to others that we have dependent origination relationships with. We are the Buddha that they know. Do you understand? Okay. In his guidelines of youth, Mr. Toda declared, for a person of wisdom to be praised by fools is a disgrace, whereas to be praised by Nichiren Daishonen is the highest honor in life. That means you must be of the same mind as the Daishonen. This was the Soka Gakkai spirit, shared by both Tanesaburo Makaguchi and his disciple Josei Toda. Directly after the astounding victory we achieved in the Osaka campaign of 1956, Mr. Toda said, we should be neither elated by praise nor alarmed by insults in the newspapers. Our faith must be unwavering. He was saying that as the Soka Gakkai gained greater recognition in society, members should simply remain steadfast in faith and continue sharing Nichiren Buddhism with others, uninfluenced by the vagaries of public opinion. As the Lotus Sutra states, encountering opposition and criticism in the course of propagating the mystic law proves that one is practicing the Buddha's teachings correctly. Nichiren Daishonen is surely aware of all our tireless efforts for Kosen Rufu. There is no greater honor. Pardon me. There is no greater honor. The wise are those who remain unswayed by the 8 winds, those who pursue absolute happiness without wavering. That means never quitting, never giving up, never giving in to devilish functions. This epitomizes a genuine practitioner of Nichiren Buddhism. Anything less than you're not. You're a wannabe. Shijo Kingo was a dedicated disciple who earnestly sought the Daishonen's guidance. He courageously took part in the struggle for Kosen Rufu. So why did Nichiren write to him at length and in great detail the way of the wise? I believe it was to teach him that the fundamental way to solve his problems lay in his own human revolution. In his own human revolution. In his growth as a human being. He was showing them how to have your own experience of benefit, that validates the teaching. Yes. You don't have to listen to my interpretation. You can experience it yourself. And then that way, you will be absolutely sure of what you're saying when you encourage others. You won't have to rely on other people's stories. You can tell them your own. A wise person has the capacity to distinguish between right and wrong with the ability to grasp the essence of the matter. The essence of the matter is to see that continuity of causality that is the basis of Buddhism. Indispensable to building a solid self, unshaken by the 8 winds, are the correct teaching and the correct teacher that explain the causes of happiness and misfortune and help us distinguish between right and wrong. The way of the wise lies, and when we say right and wrong, we're not talking about morality. We're talking about the wisdom of causality. There's a huge difference. There is a huge difference. A lot of people confuse morality with this right and wrong. No, that is not what he's talking about there. That's why I have a question mark next to the star. The way of the wise lies in practicing in exact accord with the correct teaching and in following the guidance of the correct teacher. Be always staying on, thank you, dear, by always staying on that path and always, I got my wingman back this week. By always staying on that path and always leading a life based on the mystic law, we are certain to receive the protection of the heavenly deities that Daishonin assures us. In contrast, those who are unwise or unreasonable, expecting miracles, expecting black and white, and no process of human revolution is all downhill, it's easy, my prayers, I'm chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, so whatever, they will not receive such protection. Let me say that again. In contrast, those who are unwise and unreasonable, because what I just said is unwise and unreasonable, will not, because if that were the case, then why would Nichiren have had to go through it? Why would President Makaguchi have had to go through it? Why would President Toda have had to go through it? Why would President Ikeda have to go through it? Why would I have to go through it? Why would you have to go through it? Okay? It's not that complicated. In contrast, those who are unwise or unreasonable will not receive such protections. Buddhism is a realm of reason grounded in the ultimate law of life. Be positive and undefeated. Middle of page 23, second column. A wise person, impervious to the 8 winds, could also be called the person who never gives in to defeat. That's called doubt-free faith and practicing to the last moment of your life. All right? Why has the Soka Gakkai succeeded in developing to the extent that it has today in spite of unwarranted attacks and criticism? It is simply because our admirable members have persevered in faith and forged ahead victoriously in their lives, never allowing the 8 winds to shake them, and having mentors that understand the correct teaching correctly. That is why they receive resolute protection from the positive forces of the universe. It is all due to their invincible spirit. Do not begrudge your life. That's the invincible spirit. It is all due to their invincible spirit. It's no exaggeration to say that refusing to be defeated is the most important key to victory in life. Those who keep moving forward with tenacity, who refuse to be discouraged or defeated by even the most painful trials, without fail, win in the end. The Daishonin said in his praise of Shijo, going to page 24, Shijo Kingo, he is a man who never gives in to defeat and who greatly values his friends. Those who never give in to defeat, who have an invincible spirit, are never gloomy or downcast. Be positive and undefeated. Always hold your head up high. Look to the future. Be self-assured, challenging everything confidently and positively with an invincible spirit. So is this just about a state of mind? No, because I can trust you. This never gloomy or downcast doesn't happen unless you are in front of the Gohonzon every day, chanting sincerely about whatever the 4 favorable or 4 negative winds you're facing at that moment, because they're always present. If you're advancing, they manifest. Okay? That's devilish functions. Be positive and undefeated. Always hold your head up high. Look to the future. Be self-assured, challenging everything confidently and positively with an invincible spirit. That means chanting Daimoku to the Gohonzon with conviction and faith, and perceiving your vow, and perceiving your true identity. We embrace this great Buddhist teaching that enables living beings to enjoy themselves at ease. From the 13th chapter, or 14th chapter. Peaceful practices. We don't really do peaceful practices. We regard both, because to us, suffering and joy are facts of life, so they're one and the same. We don't have to take a lightweight direction or identity. We can live through all this adversity because we're Buddhas. We have to. We have to show that this power exists, or we could never ask other people to believe that it does. We embrace this great Buddhist teaching that enables living beings to enjoy themselves at ease. We regard both suffering and joy as facts of life and continue chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo no matter what happens. The letter to Kyo. Let's keep moving steadily forward in faith, rising above all obstacles. Middle of page 24, first column. We have entered an age when people around the world seek the teaching of Buddhism on an even deeper level. We're all doing human revolution. We're all becoming Buddhas in our present form. We're all becoming teachers. Okay? We cannot possibly do Kosen Rufu with just one teacher. There have to be many, many, many correct teachers who take the spirit and the conviction and the lessons of the correct teachers that have preceded them and carry them forward. Brimming with fresh determination, let's make each great. And by the way, the world's all upside down, man. I mean, right now, it's as messed up as it's been in my almost 70 years of life. Seriously, World War II was already over by the time I was born. It's scary right now. And so there are people that are going to be suffering. And there are places on earth where there might be people that are chanting that are going to be really upside down. Starvation and a lack of agricultural output is going to become a reality. And I don't know if you guys are keeping on top of the geopolitical reality. I'm sure most of you are. But really, this is all, we're doing what we're doing right now for a reason. This isn't just by chance that we all get together. Seriously, it's getting more and more clear to me that this is something that has to be done, whether it's convenient or not. All right? Brimming with fresh determination, let's each make great efforts for Kosen Rufu, filled with courage, joy, and wisdom. This is the way of life of a wise person, untroubled by the 8 winds. Prayer, brimming with the shared commitment of mentor and disciple, page 24, first column at the bottom, from the Gosho. If lay believers and their teacher pray with differing minds, their prayers will be as futile as trying to kindle a fire on water. Even if they pray with one mind, their prayers will go unanswered if they have long made the error of attacking greater teachings with lesser ones. Eventually, both lay believers and their teacher will be ruined. Having explained the way of the wise, Nichiren Daishonin counsels Shijo Kingo to abandon his idea of going to court. He notes that Daigaku Seburo and Ikegami Muenaka, Uaman no Tayu, who followed his advice, had their prayers answered. But Hakire Sinenaga, the dude that I just read about, who later stopped practicing Nichiren Buddhism, did not follow his advice and through it, and though his prayers might have been answered to some degree, did not attain the results he had hoped for. And in that Nichiren Shu cartoon I'm talking about, that anybody that doesn't know what we're practicing right now could be led to believe by them talking about what a great guy this guy is, because he's the one that built Minobu-san Kuanji, which is still their head temple. They don't understand that their head temple is based on slander, based on its founding supporter. That's why Nico left NIKKO. Did not attain the results he had hoped for. In conclusion, the Daishonin states, if lay believers and their teacher pray with differing minds, their prayers will be as futile as trying to kindle a fire on water. If you go against the spirit of the Daishonin's teachings, or your teacher did and you follow them, you're going to have a problem following this path all the way to Buddhahood. The unified prayers of mentor and disciple are essential, he asserts. This is an important passage we have studied many times. In another letter, he writes, pardon me. If teacher and disciple are of different minds, they will never accomplish anything. They'll never accomplish anything. The oneness of mentor and disciple is a fundamental principle and cornerstone of Nichiren Buddhism. As disciples, we unite with our mentor's heart for Kosen Rufu, pray earnestly and courageously fight for Kosen Rufu, our prayers will never fail to be answered. That's been my experience. This in no way, there is no way we will fail to achieve results. We must advance with this conviction. That's called faith. Doubt-free faith. To unite with and be in rhythm with our mentor means to have the same spirit as our mentor in making our own vow for Kosen Rufu, chanting with unity of purpose alongside our fellow members, and taking action to wholeheartedly encourage each person. Okay, and making our own vow means being of the same mind as Nichiren, because we're taking the same vow that Nichiren took. Do you follow? Okay, so by always asking ourselves how. That's the other thing. If you look at Nichiren Shu, they don't call the Daishonin Daishonin. They call him Nichiren Shonin. Okay, and if you read enough Goshos, you'll see that the Daishonin was always kind of bummed that, the great teacher Honen was called great teacher. And he's going like, he doesn't deserve to be called great teacher. Okay? So the honorific title of Daishonin is very important because it identifies how we view Nichiren, okay, rather than Shakyamuni as the original teacher. That's the difference between Nichiren Shoshu and every other school. That is the Buddhism of sowing versus the Buddhism of harvest. Okay? And that's the thing that people that don't know can easily get sucked in. Now that I see they're putting animation on there, everybody wants to watch something that's easy. Don't get sucked into that. Understand that there's a very important difference. And the Soka Gakkai is separated from Nichiren Shoshu for a specific reason. I have a conviction that will all come back together at a point in time after we conquer the devilish function that has created that separation. All right? That's my conviction. But we're not the same right now. All right? Chanting with unity of purpose alongside our fellow members and taking action to wholeheartedly encourage each person. By always asking ourselves how our mentor would pray, think, and act, and exerting ourselves for Kosen Rufu with our mentor's guidance in our hearts, we will come to act in complete harmony with our mentor. And as long as I've opened my mouth and said that, the reason I say that is that Nichiren Shoshu has the membership is reduced to less than 1 million people. It's 880,000 according to their own statistics. Okay, that's not a big enough base worldwide to do this widespread propagation goal we have in the first place. It's really only Soka Gakkai that's in a position to execute that, because now President Kate is even saying, are you a friend of the Gakkai? Good, read all this stuff. All of this is available on the internet to anybody. You don't have to be a Soka Gakkai member to hear anything that I'm saying, or understand it, or learn it, or utilize it. You just can't slander the teacher.
Right.
That's all that's important. Okay? So it's not about whether or not you go to a meeting, it's whether or not you advance Kosen Rufu.
Yeah.
This is the key. Read between the lines of what Daisaku Ikeda is talking about. By always asking ourselves how our mentor would pray, think, and act, and exerting ourselves for Kosen Rufu, with our mentor's guidance in our hearts, we will come to act in complete harmony with our mentor. The original mentors that I shown, and being of the same mind as Nichiren, is the whole deal here. He's talking about being a correct teacher. He's not talking about being a fan of me. Daisaku, I'm saying. Do you understand?
Right.
Okay. Middle of page 25, a struggle to save the people from suffering. To return to the 8 winds, Nichiren Daishonin writes, even if they, lay believers and their teacher, pray with one mind, their prayers will go unanswered if they have long made the error of attacking great teachings with lesser ones. Eventually, both lay believer and their teacher will be ruined. In other words, in addition to the prayers of mentor and disciple being united, those prayers must be based on the mystic law. They must be based on Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and Nichiren as the original teacher. To illustrate, and the Gohonzon. To illustrate this point, that Daishonin then cites the errors of the chief priests Myoen and Jien of the Tendai school of Japan, which originally espoused the supremacy of the Lotus Sutra. They were the Tendai school that got polluted by true word. Their error was Jikaku and Shisho. Their error was conducting prayers while incorporating the rites of the esoteric teachings of the True Word School, which denigrated the Lotus Sutra. During the war between Minamoto and Taira clans, Myoen took the side of Taira and offered prayers based on the True Word teachings, but the Taira were defeated. Later, during the Jokyu disturbance of 1221, a struggle between the imperial court and the military government, Jien, who supported the imperial court, also conducted true word prayers. The ultimate outcome was the collapse of imperial rule. Despite these historical examples that Daishonin states, people still do not wonder what is wrong with the true word doctrines. In both cases, whichever side these Tendai priests with their true word prayers took ended up suffering defeat or ruin. Now, for the third time, true word prayers were being conducted, because he's talking about the Mongol invasion. He's talking to Shijo Kingo, right? That's what this Gosho is about. It's to Shijo Kingo. During a period when everybody's freaking out, they're going to get invaded. It's like some people, does that sound familiar? Yeah. True word prayers were being conducted, the Daishonin notes, but this time they were being sponsored by both the imperial court and the military government for the defeat of the Mongol forces, which were again threatening to invade. What will result from such prayers? It would only lead to defeat for both the imperial court and the military government, but also result in the ultimate destruction of Japan as a nation. Nichiren firmly believed that unless prayers for the country's protection rested on a correct understanding of the causes producing happiness and misfortune, the entire nation would be vanquished. Then it would be the people who suffered most. In this letter, we can perceive the Daishonin's immense compassion and powerful determination to somehow prevent this from happening. And one would believe that his prayers did accomplish that. Teaching the essence of human relations and life, page 26. As for your own problem from the Gosho, I advise you not to go to court, neither harbor a judge against your lord, nor leave his service. Stay on in Kamakura. Go to attend on your lord and less frequently than before. Wait upon him only from time to time. Then you can expect that your wish will be fulfilled. Never conduct yourself in a shameful manner. Be unmoved by greed, by the desire for fame, or by anger. Back to the Gosho lecture from President Keita. Here, the Daishonin offers guidance on the course of action Shijo Kingo should take. He reiterates his earlier advice about not going to court or harboring a grudge against his lord. He urges Kingo to remain in Emma's service and stay in Kamakura, though attending on his lord less frequently than before. In other words, he is advising Shijo Kingo to bide his time for the moment and carry out his duties with diligence and patience, suggestions that are clearly appropriate thanks to Nichiren's thoroughly grasping the situation Shijo Kingo found himself in. He also advises Kingo not to appear in any way embarrassed or apologetic, because he has done nothing wrong and there is no reason for him to debase himself. He shouldn't apologize for having done shakabuku and revealing the true teaching. He should have behaved with dignity and self-respect as a Buddhist, the Daishonin says. This letter in Japanese ends abruptly with the words greed, desire for fame, and anger trailing off in an incomplete sentence, suggesting that the closing portion is missing. We can assume from the context that the message was, be unmoved by greed, by the desire for fame, or by anger, as this shows that Daishonin regularly offers Shijo Kingo concrete and specific guidance in response to his circumstances, teaching him the essence of human relations in life. We're in the second column, page 26, going toward the middle. Shijo Kingo deeply etched these lessons in his heart and put them into practice. He did not try to escape. He waited patiently, persevered, and always strove to conduct himself properly as a human being. Eventually, he demonstrated brilliant proof of victory in both his community and his profession. What happened to him? Come on, guys. Emma got sick. He was the one that got him well, and Emma was so grateful that he gave him 3 times the estates and also converted to the Daishonin's Buddhism. Began to practice Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, encouraging each individual, which is total victory. Page 26, encouraging each individual. When he saw that one of his disciples was suffering, the Daishonin would repeatedly send that person encouragement and guidance. How wonderful it is to have such a teacher. And Shijo Kingo was a disciple who deeply appreciated this. To wholeheartedly and thoroughly encourage each individual is the eternal and unchanging spirit of the SGI, a spirit directly in accord with the behavior of Nichiren Daishonin himself. And now I'm going to apologize to everybody that's written to me, and I haven't written you back because I've had one hell of a tough summer. It's been a little more than 6 months, but we've won. We won. We got on television this week in the United States. We turned poison into medicine. I will get back to all of you. Mr. Makaguchi, in spite of his advanced age, that's you too, David. Mr. Makaguchi, in spite of his advanced age, always took immediate action after listening to the problems of the Soka Gakkai members. On one occasion, a young man asked him to talk to his family about Nichiren Buddhism, and Mr. Makaguchi responded by traveling all the way to Yame in Fukuoka Prefecture, Kyushu, to do so. The trip there took more than a full day by train. This is, could you come in Shakabuku, my mom and dad? Sure, where do they live? A full day train ride away in a very uncomfortable car with wooden seats. The trip there took more than a full day by train, seated on hard wooden third-class seats, because he didn't have a lot of coin. When someone asked why he made such a long journey to visit a single family, Mr. Makaguchi replied that he was always eager to foster new members who would develop a genuine commitment to Kosen Rufu. Mr. Makaguchi's sincere action helped that young man grow and develop. Mr. Toda also identified personal guidance as key to fostering capable individuals. After being inaugurated as the second Soka Gakkai president in May 1951, he conducted personal guidance sessions almost daily at the Soka Gakkai headquarters branch office in Ichigaya, Tokyo. The leaders would regularly visit his small office to watch and learn from Mr. Toda, as I used to go see Mr. Osaki in his, thereby gaining insight on how to give guidance. Those early personal guidance sessions were not only occasions for him to greatly encourage members who were suffering, but also unequaled opportunities to help leaders develop their own ability to give guidance in faith, not their opinions. I have also dedicated myself wholeheartedly to one-to-one personal encouragement. Wherever I have gone, be it in Japan or around the world, I have always striven to encourage each person I encountered, whether a pioneer of the Many Treasures group or a youthful successor in the Future Division, whether it is someone who practices Buddhism or not. I have always wanted to brighten the hearts of everyone I meet and inspire them to bring forth courage. I can't help wanting to encourage others, at the top of page 27, second column. It is no exaggeration to say, President Ikeda is qualifying, that I have dedicated my entire life, and he has no compunctions about saying that because he knows it's the truth, one in spirit, with my mentor, Mr. Toda. And as many of these lectures as I've read, you hear him say over and over, President Toda taught me this. President Toda said that. President Toda, encouraged this person this way. It's all just President Toda being re-expressed by President Ikeda. Okay? It's not different. One in spirit with my mentor, Mr. Toda, to traveling throughout Japan and the world with that sole focus and motivation. That's what we should try to emulate, that spirit. You don't have to go around the world. Joyfully striving on the grand stage of worldwide Kosen Rufu, page 27, and we're almost done. Mr. Toda once said to me, Daisaku, the true greatness of the Soka Gakkai will only be apparent 200 years from now. We need to think 200 years ahead and secure a solid foundation for Kosen Rufu now. That means making many mentors, qualifying many teachers that understand the correct teaching in the correct manner so that it can be propagated for the next millennia.
Yes.
The Soka Gakkai's 100th anniversary in 2030, the midpoint in that 200 years ahead is fast approaching. A most crucial juncture in our movement for Kosen Rufu awaits us. And he's qualifying. He may not be here still around in 2030. Kosen Rufu is truly a great and sacred undertaking to lead all humanity to happiness, into the eternal future. That's why making Mr. Toda's heart my own, I have always taken steps for the future, constantly asking myself what needs to be done right now and how to best build a lasting castle of capable individuals. He's talking about people that can replace me in providing the direction necessary for the correct teaching to continue to the end of the latter day, which is 10,000 years and beyond. There is no end. Today we have entered the age in which SGI members are forging ties of trust and friendship in their communities and shining as bright beacons for future generations. Many in society have high hopes and praise for our activities. We have overcome the onslaughts of three powerful enemies described in the in the Lotus Sutra, and the momentum of Kosen Rufu is growing. Through the noble efforts, of all of our members, support for the SGI is expanding everywhere. A new age of worldwide Kosen Rufu is here. The grand stage of worldwide Kosen Rufu lies before us. It is a time for successors, which is all of you. It's not me. It is a time for successors to realize even more wonderful achievements in the spirit of becoming bluer than the indigo. And somebody asked me what that means, and I'm going to read it from you as soon as we're done here. The century of Soka is here. That's what makes each person so important. Just as Nichiren encouraged Shijo Kingo to do, each of us needs to become a wise person. Well, just as Nichiren encouraged Shijo Kingo to do, each of us needs to become a wise a wise person who wins the trust of others in our community and society. That is the practical means for making worldwide Kosan Rufu a reality. It's not a fairy tale that will happen someday. It's gonna happen for sure, and we're gonna make sure that it does. It's our responsibility. We've taken a vow. We have to live up to that vow, or shame on us. The key lies with one person, with the individual. Each one of us. With each of us carrying out our human revolution and establishing a way of life unshaken by the 8 winds, each of us casting off the provisional and revealing that true. That means quit being a common mortal, become the Buddha that you are in our own lives and fulfilling our mission in this existence, which is to become a Buddha in your present form. And each of us returning to our vow from time without beginning. That's the original teacher, our vow from Kuan Ganjo as bodhisattvas of the earth, disciples of the original teacher. Our vow from time without beginning and taking action for Kosan Rufu with courage and joy. We're not afraid of anything. We're going to kick some devil ass. Everything starts with the individual. A new age begins from the heart of each one of us. And someone asked about indigo, and a long time ago, I didn't read it. Here it is again. Does everybody understand about becoming bluer than the indigo? You understand what it is? It's through that constant process of forging the iron, making it red hot, hammering out the imperfections. Here's another way to express the same thing. It's our adversity that is our friend. It's our adversity that allows us to actually become Buddhas in our present form. Number 15 on page 29. Becoming bluer than the indigo derives from a writing of the Chinese philosopher Xuan Tzu. The juice extracted from the indigo plant is used as a dye. Although the juice is not a deep blue color itself, and anybody that's seen indigo, it's pretty blue. Okay, the original juice they start to dye with is not that blue. Cloth dipped in it is dyed blue. With repeated dyeing, produces even deeper shades. In the East, this saying is often used to indicate the disciple growing to surpass the teacher. In Nichiren Buddhism, it is also used to refer to deepening one's faith. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ooh.